Hi, Stephanie. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Ciara. It's really cool to meet you too. I'm so curious to talk to you and what
Yes,
got you
definitely.
into your PhD.
Yeah, so I'm a second year PhD student. I've just started my second year, and my project is in machine learning and using machine learning techniques to support marathon runners. So my background is maths and statistics, and it was sort of almost a natural progression to start getting into the computer science side of things. What's your
Ah,
PhD in,
that's.
Stephanie?
I do a PhD in skin cancer. I'm in my fourth year. Oh no, well, I'm actually in my fifth year. I realize now, so it's rather towards the end. Yeah, into it because I've always been curious about cancer, and skin cancer was just I had like this very nice offer and this very nice lab, and this is how I got into it. And I'm realizing it is quite remarkable that you are starting with your PhD, or that you're in the beginning of your PhD and already having like a business and a YouTube channel and so on. So it's quite impressive you're starting everything that early.
Yeah, I kind of thought it might be good to start things in some sense in the beginning, because like we were kind of presented with a set of transferable skills that you need to develop as part of the PhD. And one of them being obviously networking and presenting and things like that. So I thought YouTube would be a good way to start doing that. Like in the scientific communication side of things, being able to share your research as well as get to know people. And then similarly with the business, that was just a course we sort of had as part of our university. We have like a startup program. And I thought that would be a good one for the entrepreneurship skill and also the employability skill as well. So just sort of all happened around the same time.
Ah, that's interesting. So the YouTube channel came before the business?
Yes. So I started my YouTube channel
Ah.
in January, and that was
Mhm.
around maybe 3 months into my PhD, or 4 months, I think. But yeah, I just thought it would be a good way to sort of work on my public speaking as well as build up scientific communication. And at the same time, for me, a lot of my YouTube channel content is based around productivity while being a PhD student. So that's something I'm very interested in, trying to get everything done. And I have other things going on outside of the PhD. So I need to make sure that I'm getting as much as I can out of a given day. And that's something I've just been really interested in. And I always found there wasn't anyone on YouTube talking about that specifically for a PhD. So I thought it would be something people would be interested in.
Mhm. Yes, definitely.
And how did you get into YouTube? Because I know you're also making YouTube videos.
Yes, I got into YouTube. Actually, I used to have a podcast a while ago that was focusing on PhD careers because I was very unhappy with all of the PhD prospects or career prospects that PhDs had. And I wanted to show people different career options. And I interviewed really, really great guests, like, for instance, Nobel Prize winner Jacques Dubochet, lots of CEOs of some companies. And nobody found it because well, I was just not good with this algorithm stuff. And then I realized that podcasts are actually a very, very bad marketing tool. So I decided to switch to YouTube because it is a lot easier to be found through the YouTube algorithm and through YouTube search. And this is also how I discovered Twitter, because I realized, well, in the beginning, I was not on Twitter at all. I was not a Twitter consumer, and I'm still not a big consumer, rather a content creator. I realized scientists are on Twitter. So if I want to advertise to them, I have to understand Twitter. And I realized I got so much into this whole algorithm stuff and how to get the word about your work out there that I was a lot more interested in that actually than into PhD careers. And I realized actually I didn't want to tweet about this at all, but sometimes I was just so excited that I had to somehow emotionally. And it resonated with people a lot. So I decided to move into this because a lot more people wanted to promote their work, and it's becoming so important to be a personal brand that now I'm like coaching people on how to do this specifically on Twitter.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think Twitter is very important for academics. It's still something I haven't gotten into enough because, I know that it's such a great way to share your research. But yeah, I definitely will be needing to watch your YouTube videos to figure out how to improve my Twitter anyways.
well well, feel free to. I was actually quite I so far always thought that your YouTube channel was just a marketing tool for your business because it's such a brilliant combination, I think, because
Yeah.
I noticed you're using a few search terms or keywords that I also used to use. So I'm wondering, how strategic are you about this, and how is the synergy going between
Yeah,
YouTube and your business?
I would say quite yeah, I definitely would be into the algorithm side of things, same as you. Like when I'm doing something, I think a lot of people make the mistake when they start with something like YouTube and they just put videos out there and sort of expect that people will see them. And that just isn't really the way it is. So I definitely would be the kind of person who likes to learn how to make yourself like rank better in search and things like that. So I think that's something you've mentioned as well. So one of the people that I really like on YouTube is Catherine Manning, and she talks a lot about like how to build a very successful YouTube channel. There's a few others, there's Erin on Demand, and I'm sure some others, but like there's a good few people in that space talking about how to build up your channel. So that's something that I definitely try and focus on, trying to figure out how to rank in search. So I think I'm ranked at the moment as second for PhD student, which is kind of crazy because that's something people search hundreds of, I think almost 200,000 times a month. So it's the kind of thing like if you can end up near enough the top of the list, eventually you'll start having people come to your channel. And I think that's something lots of people don't understand about YouTube, is that it is a search engine and people go on there looking for things. So if you just put videos out there, if you're not trying to end up searchable, then it's going to be harder to grow. But in terms of the business, I think it's ended up more so that I had this channel around productivity and I started thinking what kind of product would people need based on that. So the videos, yes, they're helpful, but there comes a point where you want something else that you have that you can use. And that's sort of how the business came afterwards.
And do you also have like an email list or something? Because it's such a nice thing. People see you, then they click on your videos, and then you redirect them to like a freebie. And as soon as you do this, they are in your space. And it's like such an evergreen thing.
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment we have our kind of site where you can kind of check out what we're trying to build at the moment on Daisier, which is personalized productivity tools. So there you can sign up for the mailing list so that when we have more things available, you'll get a notification. We're working on some custom planner templates at the moment as well, particularly for PhD students, because that's something that's definitely lacking, is like productivity tools that'll specifically help PhD students. So we're hoping to get those out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, but you're not linking to the email list below your videos, or you're not having this
Not at the
sales
moment.
funnel?
I probably should be, but
yes, this is such a missed opportunity. And this is why I love YouTube, because like you get all of this traffic from the search already. And then you just tell them, by the way, if you're interested in this, then also be sure to check out my freebie, because there I explain this a lot more and you can get it straight to your inbox.
Learning some good tips here already.
Yeah, I mean, this is so important, I think. Like as PhDs, we don't have a lot of time. So I decided to only focus on the things that are giving me a maximum of results. And this is also how I've been growing my email list, even though, well, maybe we should explain why an email list is important for everyone who is interested in growing their own business. And the reason for that is that social media can always change their algorithm. For instance, I'm noticing this right now during the election. I'm getting a lot fewer likes. And I'm thinking on the one hand, it is because people are not really interested in all of this stuff and are more interested in the polls and so on. But also, I'm thinking that Twitter is changing something about the algorithm somehow. This is at least my impression. So we don't want to rely too much on the algorithms of social media channel and want to have people in our orbit. And this is why I think an email list is so important, because once they are on it, you already know that they're interested in your product.
Yeah, that's very true, I think, because they're often changing, especially things like Instagram, like when they, drastically changed from not seeing the likes and that being a way that people obviously used to measure channels, especially people who get paid for Instagram. Like when they changed that was such a big thing. So I think definitely you're dead on having the email list. That's never going to change. Hopefully. I don't see how it could. So it's always good to have something like that.
And how did you feel when you started your YouTube channel? Because for me, it was super scary, actually.
Yeah, it was very scary. It's something I've actually wanted to do for a really long time. And, I think I explored a few different options for things that I could make videos about. But I do kind of feel like eventually I just said, sure, look, we'll see what happens. I think I was a bit nervous of people seeing it as well. And it's still something I don't promote hugely amongst my personal networks. But I think now I'm a little bit more confident with it. And I think while it shouldn't matter, I do think it was partially that seeing people enjoying the videos and things like that sort of helps to make you feel like you're doing something good. And it's also quite fun, I think, like editing the videos is kind of like a nice creative outlet as well in some sense. So I definitely felt nervous, but excited. How about you?
I had the same, especially, it's funny that you're mentioning this. I felt also so scared to show my YouTube videos to friends and family. And I was actually hoping that nobody would ever find me. Somehow they found me through Instagram, because there, when I log into my private Instagram or my professional Instagram, somehow people get those suggestions. So they found me eventually. I was able to keep this a secret for quite some time. But this is the most scary thing, to be honest.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then I realized I don't know what is your method of recording videos. I tend to mess up, or I used to mess up a lot while recording videos, but then I was just clapping 3 times. This is actually a nice tip for everyone who wants to start a YouTube channel. You can usually see where you mess up in your audio, because, like 3 times, then you can see, just delete this. And this is, this reassured me a lot, that I know that I can always delete mistakes.
I use my phone to film my videos. I think that's one thing as well. Lots of people, when they start something like this, think they need the fanciest camera and things like that. But like, I use my iPhone 11, and yes, the quality isn't amazing, but I don't really get any complaints about it either, because I think when you're delivering content that's based on information, people don't care as much about the quality because they're not really there for that. Whereas I think for some of the bigger YouTubers, obviously they are delivering such a high level of content that they need to keep delivering that. But I think starting off, it's okay to not expect all that much from the quality necessarily. But yeah, I think every once in a while you get one person saying something, being like, the audio could be better, and you're like, do you want to get me a microphone? Feel free.
Yeah. So I also have the feeling the quality is not that important. Audio, I think, is somewhat important. So I invested into a better microphone, but it really depends. So for instance, for some of my favorite YouTube channels, they had very poor quality, but the content was so good. Yeah. And also there are lots of people who tell me I should improve the editing a little bit and make it a little bit more artistic. Yeah. But this is actually not reflected at all in my analytics. This is another nice thing about YouTube compared to lots of other channels, that we have such sophisticated analytics. And usually for very good videos, the audience retention, which means how long people have been watching my videos, is between 40 and 50%. And this is regardless of how I've been editing. So yes, this is, I think people beat themselves up over looking super professional and editing super professionally and so on, when really it is just all about the content.
Yeah, one of my best performing videos was a screen recording that took me like 20 minutes maybe to record it on the screen, of showing how I read academic papers. And it was because I hadn't posted in a while, and I was like, I really need to just get something out. This will only take a short amount of time. And yeah, it performed really well. No complaints that it was poor quality. And I just think, it doesn't matter as much. And I think that's something people worry about a lot in the beginning, is things like that, which, it doesn't matter quite as much as people think.
Yes, definitely. And also, I was quite surprised actually to see how many people want to promote their work, because so far I thought all academics just want to publish papers, and I didn't realize how diverse academics are, and that usually they have either they have their research, but also they have a passion project. Like for instance, with you and me, we both started with something else that we wanted to promote that was somehow related to our PhD. So I'm hoping that this is encouraging them to start something new and to be a little bit more about this, because I remember when I started and was not strategic, I thought nobody cared, and this was just really I had very little confidence at that moment. And I hope if people can take something away from this conversation, it is that only because you have very few views doesn't mean that you have bad content. It just means that you haven't understood the algorithm yet. And this is something that is no rocket science compared to your PhD. Usually you can learn this within a few days if you're wanting to invest some time into this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like at the beginning is the hardest part. I think the first sort of 500 maybe subscribers that you get is the hardest part, like starting to build that up or getting things. And over time, I think it starts to get easier. You'll start to get a couple of videos that are just continuously working away, getting some views, and then like things start to almost take care of themselves. So I think I'm at that point nicely now where even if I'm not putting out as much content, if I'm busy, it'll still sort of keep going slowly but surely, which is great. And I think now it's starting to turn into a nice little side hustle, with the channel being monetized, which is something as well, a good reason for people to get into YouTube, not being the main reason, because I think if you do that, you'll never really go anywhere with it, but it is a nice extra reason to perhaps get into it. But it definitely does take a little while to get that up and running.
Yeah, I'm not super close to be monetized because I'm only putting out 2 videos per month at the moment, because I'm at the final stage of my PhD, so I don't have that much time. I'm guessing, although I'm seeing a huge increase in views per video. So this is really remarkable. In the beginning of my YouTube channel, I was thinking, well, I know this title is not optimized for keywords, but it is so interesting that eventually it will take off. But this is really not true. I realized that most of the time now I'm pretty confident usually whether a video is going to take off or not. And it's just a decision whether I want to like show it to my audience anyway, or sacrifice one day where I could also be putting out some content that's going to perform super well. But now I've started, even though I have some other good video ideas, if I don't see that the keywords are looking good, that I can think of in the title, then I'm not going to produce it, no matter how good the content might be, which I don't know. What is your view on that?
I think if you're short at, like, if it's something where you're time constrained, I think that makes sense. Especially like you can always come back to those videos that you think are good once you have a set number of viewers who are going to be really interested in that. So I think it just depends. Like once you start building up a small audience that you kind of know anything related to this, they'll be interested in. So like I think I'm at that stage now where I will put out anything that I personally find interesting, regardless of like just how it relates to PhD, something that I've come across recently that I want to talk to them about, then I'll start making things like that. And I think over time it's just about building up that little community of people who are just kind of happy enough with the content and who are interested in following the journey in some way. So I think because my channel is, every couple of months they'll get some update of my PhD, for people starting off on their PhD, it can be quite, I suppose, interesting to see how you can compare stages and things like that. But yeah, I think it's definitely, I think it's worth doing, even if it does take a while with the monetization. Like I think that's something as well people might not know, is that you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to get monetized on YouTube, to start having ads on your videos. That's the same as 240,000 minutes of your content being watched by people, which didn't used to be the case. And now I think it makes things a little bit harder for people starting out. But once you get there, I definitely think it's worth it, probably.
Yes, I also think so. It will be a nice income stream. As soon as I have time to produce 1 video per week, it will be a lot faster. So do you plan to continue editing your videos yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Because for me, it doesn't take a huge amount of time, but again, I don't use any creative editing yet.
Okay. How long does
it
take?
I think I would. It depends on the kind of video. So like it depends how much I care about it. So sometimes if it's one where I'm talking to the camera, usually I'll just be able to talk for whatever amount of time, but sometimes I'll go back in and like edit out the breaths. Like the bits where you're like pausing to like talk, like, with the bits in between, because I feel like people are more engaged when it just keeps going. And sometimes I'll do that and sometimes I won't. So that can be one thing that takes extra time. Or other thing like adding in maybe transitions and things like that. I think it just depends. Usually it'll take maybe 2 hours to edit a video, but it really depends. Sometimes it will take much longer if it's a different type of video.
So I started to hire an editor,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. The thing for me is that, sorry. The thing for me is that, again, I'm super busy at the moment, and I'm having a small income from the whole coaching thing. And I realized that 1 hour of work translates into almost 3 videos that somebody else could be editing, while it is taking me a good 4 hours actually to edit a video to make it comprehensible. Then it also depends how educational your content is and how well, for instance, for me, I'm talking a lot about Twitter. And when I talk, for instance, about the analytics, there's no point in just describing it. People need to see it. And then I need to also add in some screen recordings and so on. And because this is another thing that, well, my policy is if people don't understand what I'm saying, then I might as well not say it at all. So, but I'm guessing with productivity, it might be a little bit easier to visualize or to talk about and to describe. So maybe you've chosen a better topic to not having to put too much effort into
I think,
this.
yes, it can be easier, definitely sometimes. Like sometimes I have things where I'll have like extra bits of information, but I think most of the time it is somewhat easier explained in a conversation. So it means I can just sit down and film it in whatever amount of time it takes. And then I'll just cut out bits that I feel like weren't as important. But yeah, there wouldn't be as much need to add in all this extra things necessarily.
Yeah. And sometimes I also get a little bit carried away because I'm thinking, well, when you blend in something, somehow when it comes up with a little ping or something like this, it might look more professional. But now I'm starting, well, since I have an editor now and we are focusing on 1 price per video instead of 1 price per hour, this is not my problem anymore because it's her responsibility to keep track of her time. But maybe for people who start... this is maybe one thing that might keep people from starting actually, is that they think it might take a lot of time to edit. Well, in reality, it really depends what kind of content it is that you are putting out.
Definitely. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Stefanie, I use iMovie to edit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's relatively easy to understand, I think. Like there's quite easy features where you can just trim or split clips and things like that. And if you want to add in things to go in different parts of the video as well, like it's easy enough to figure out. But I think there are more complicated things that maybe then will obviously take longer to edit because you want to add in all the extra things that they have. So I'm not sure that I think can't think of the name of the kind of more advanced version of iMovie, but perhaps that's something you know.
No, I also use iMovie actually.
Okay.
And you can actually like make it quite sophisticated with a few tricks. And actually you mentioned Catherine Manning. She has a few really, really great tips on how to make your video look a lot more professional, even in iMovie. What I hate about iMovie is that you cannot put in more than 1 picture at a time. And since I'm working a lot with several pictures at the same time, iMovie is not good enough anymore. And then luckily my editor has a better movie editing program.
Yeah, I've actually found this morning because I have to make a thesis in 3 video for my PhD. And like I needed to add in a slide and then I needed to add in something to cover something else. So it means every time you have to export the video and then load that back in, add in the next one, download that, add it back in, put that over.
Oh, that is so painful.
Yeah. So maybe we'll move on to a more advanced one eventually, but not for the moment.
Yeah. For me, it is also, I don't know how it is in Ireland, how big the PhD salary is, but for me, I'm starting to think my time is worth a lot more than the money that I'm spending. So I'm starting to invest not a lot of money, but really some money into saving myself time because I'm thinking I'm trying to outsource as many things as possible that are only requiring a brain, but not necessarily my brain. Let's say.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I think the salary, I'm not sure how it is in other places. I think typically here the salary is 18,500 a year. At least in computer science. I don't know if it changes much from thing to thing, but I think it's typically that. So I think for us, any extra income is very welcomed. And I think that's where the YouTube comes into it, that if I have enough to cover the hours spent on the videos, then that's fine by me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe I think in the future it'd be nice. Like, I'm at the moment, a lot of the income is being reinvested into the channel for different things that I need for like the thumbnails or things like that. But over time, if it started to get bigger, that would be a good time to probably add an editor to the list for me.
Mm. Yeah, in Switzerland, we are very privileged in terms of salaries for PhDs. So right now, I'm almost reinvesting everything into the business. Also, then I'm thinking, since I'm not relying on the income, this means that I might as well, this way I don't have to pay taxes on it and can grow faster. Yes.
Smart.
Yeah, but I think we are soon at the end of this conversation. So maybe let's talk about where can people find us.
Yeah, so I suppose for me, my YouTube channel is called PhD and Productivity. Should come up there when you search that in on YouTube. And on Instagram and Twitter, my username is Ciara Feely, but I'm sure we'll have them all linked somewhere. And lastly, my startup Daisier, if anyone's interested in personalized productivity tools or templates, then you can find that on daisier.co.
Awesome. I'm following you already, actually, by the way. So I already know.
I think I am as well.
Yeah. And you can find me as Career Conversations on YouTube. And on Twitter, I have a very funny name, Career Conversar 1. And this name is still a remnant of when I had no idea what I was doing on Twitter. So I wouldn't be like choosing this name again. But yeah, I think it is quite memorable. Career Conversar 1. Yes.
I thought that was kind of like, I saw that the other day. I thought it was meant to be like, career conversation one, because it almost sounds like conversation one. But
I should have said that. Yeah.
I thought either way, it was an interesting. I definitely think it's quite a catchy name brand, anyways. Career Conversations.
Funny enough, it was inspired. Well, we don't have time for this. Maybe people should follow me on YouTube, and then I will explain how the name was inspired. Yeah.
Great idea.
So yeah, it was really great to talk to you.
It was so nice to meet you, Stefanie.
Yeah, really nice.